When we talk about one dimension, the motion is very simple, right? So the particle you select the origin, then this direction is, you say, positive, and this direction is negative, and you use equation and you can solve it, right? So in one dimension, the particle has only two possibilities to go, and if you carefully select the origin, then you can write the equation and you can sort it out. But in real world, a body or a particle moves in 2 or 3 dimension, right? So in 2 or 3 dimension, what are the possible path? In one dimension, the particle only is allowed to move in a straight line. But in 2 dimension, you guys can think, one example will be going in a circle, right? So particle going in a circle is 2 dimension. Then let us say you throw something like this, you kick a football, it goes like this. And I can take various shape. I can take, let us say, roller coasters kind of trajectory. So something is dropped and it goes like this. So these are actually 2 dimension. Okay, 3 dimension is very easy to visualize. We assume that this is X, this is Y, and Z is coming out. Okay, Z is this axis, right? This is coming out. So actually these 3 motions I have shown you is 2-dimensional motion, because you need only XY plane. Now it turns out that there is a huge difference between 1 dimension and 2-dimensional motion. You can't understand 2-dimensional motion without using a very important mathematical tool that is called vector, right? And if you go from 2 dimension to 3 dimension, then it's quite simple, right? So we are going generally talk about 2-dimensional motion only. So in this case, to explain it, you will select a origin. Let us say the center is origin. So this particle is located here. You can see here I can draw X and Y axis, and I can talk about it. We'll learn about all this. So it turns out that when a body moves in 2 dimension, let us say this is X and this is Y, it has infinite possible direction to go. Okay, it can go in any way it wants. So the simplification, which is one side is positive, one side is negative, has to be changed here somehow, and vectors actually help us to do that. Now it turns out that vectors can explain very complicated motion very easily. One example will be like, suppose you drop a ball from a ground, from height h, okay, and at the same time someone throws a ball in this direction from the same ground, and you know that it will take a parabolic path. So this ball is landing here, this landing here. So the question is, you are dropping a ball with 0 speed from a height h, and then you are throwing a ball straight, okay, parallel to the ground at a height h. Which one will take more time? Means in this 2 motion, which one will take more time or which one will take less time? Now if you don't understand vector, you can't solve this, especially this problem. Okay, it turns out that both will take same time. Okay, so T1 will be T2. You will understand this thing only using vector. One more example is, suppose a body is going in a uniform circular motion, then we say that its velocity is tangential and its acceleration is towards the center. Okay, this is center. Now this is again amazing thing, that a thing is going in a circle and at any point the velocity is tangent. Okay, tangent is a line which touches the circle at one point. So if the particle is here, velocity is tangential but acceleration is inside, right? Now again, without vector you can't understand this also. So there are lot of examples which cannot be explained without using vectors. So we are going to understand vectors now. Okay, so when we talk about laws of physics, we describe laws of physics, then we use physical quantities. So physical quantities are divided into three categories. One we call it scalar, one we call vector, and third is they have only numerical value without unit. Numerical value without unit. Now just let us first talk about this. One example of this you guys have seen to be refractive index. Okay, so example of this is refractive index. I am just writing Ri. If you guys remember, refractive index, it's either u, mu or n. It is C by V, so it doesn't have any unit. Then you guys will learn in class 12 there is something called dielectric constant. Okay, so next example is dielectric constant. Like water dielectric constant is 80. So all the physical quantities are categorized into these three, and there are one category in which they don't have any unit, and one example is refractive index and another is dielectric constant. Now coming to scalars. Scalars quantities are those quantity which have only magnitude and unit. Okay, an example will be your mass, volume, distance, speed, density, and I will put a star, pressure and current is, I will put etc. These are scalar quantity. Now I have put pressure here. The reason being, sometimes we think that current is vector quantity because it has direction, right? Now it turns out, and pressure also, sometimes we think that it has some direction, but these both are a scalar quantity. Okay, now vectors are a special physical quantity which has magnitude and direction. Okay, they have magnitude and direction. An example is, let us say, displacement, velocity, acceleration, force, momentum, and I will put etc. Okay, so all the physical quantities are put in this three category. They have magnitude and direction, and they have only magnitude. Okay, it's just represented by a number. Now it turns out that the scalar quantities obey ordinary rules of algebra. Now what I mean by that, when you try to add two scalars, you don't need any new idea, and suppose I want to add 1 kg block with 1 kg block, then we know that the total mass will be 2 kg. Now how you place the block, it doesn't matter. Okay, you may place them in a weighing machine like this. Okay, 1 kg 1 kg, you may place them, let us say, like this, or you may place them like this. Okay, whatever way you want. So orientation, like how you placed, it doesn't matter. You just, when you add it, whatever way you add it, it is going to be this. So this is ordinary rule of algebra. Let us take one more example. Kinetic energy of a particle is half mv square. Kinetic energy is a scalar quantity. It does not depend on direction. Okay, so if a ball is moving in this direction with speed v, or a ball is moving with this direction in speed v, or a ball is moving in this direction and so on, in each case, suppose mass of the ball is m, its kinetic energy will be half mv square. Nothing will change. Okay, and energy is a scalar quantity. Energy does not depend on direction, right? Suppose you are eating a chocolate. Chocolate is nothing but energy. It doesn't matter in which direction you gulp the chocolate or you eat the chocolate, whatever. Energy is going to be same. Now vectors, vectors are added using triangle law or now we'll talk about it. So vectors are special. They vary from scalars in a lot way, but this is the prime. Okay, this is the prime that vectors are added using triangle or parallelogram law of vector addition. So this, in this video we'll talk about it, that what is triangle law and what is parallelogram law. Okay, now just let us take one example. Suppose this is your, this is x-axis and this is y-axis, right? Now let us say the information is that you went this much, let us say, okay, let us say we are representing it by this arrow. You went this much in this direction, then you went this much in this direction. We are calling it this to be vector A and this to be vector B. Okay, so suppose this is your house or any place and you moved this much in this direction and this much in this direction. Now the question is how far you are from the origin, or what is your displacement. Now if you remember the concept of displacement, then it is the shortest distance between initial and final point, right? So if you have two vectors like this, a vector is represented by an arrow. This is the length of the arrow, is its magnitude, and this is the direction. Okay, so A vector is this, B is this. Now it turns out that the displacement will be like this. I am writing it R for displacement. Now this R vector, it turns out to be A plus B. Now this is triangle law. Now how we have done this, if you pay attention, then this is the tail of the vector, this is the tail of the first vector, and this is the head of the first vector. Then this is the tail of the second vector, this is the head of the second vector. Now the rule, the triangle rule or parallelogram rule is this: if you arrange two vectors in such a way that they represent adjacent side of a triangle taken in a order. Okay, so again I am repeating, if you represent two vectors in such a way that they represent adjacent side of a triangle taken in a order in the sense, see, it is going like this and it is going like this, then the resultant is drawn from the tail of the first vector to the head of the last vector. Okay, so triangle rule is this, that if you can use two vectors to represent adjacent side of triangle, then the resultant, okay, this is resultant vector, the resultant is drawn from tail of the first to the head of the last. Now in this case you can see A and B are perpendicular. We'll talk about the angle between vectors. Now what if if you have moved in this way. Suppose you moved by A and you moved by B in this direction. So again you can see this 2 can be represented as an adjacent side of a triangle taken in a order. Then resultant is again drawn from here to here. Now you all know that we say vector has both magnitude and direction, right? Now the direction of this resultant vector is measured with respect to angle. So we can say angle alpha or theta. So alpha is the direction. Okay, this is called resultant vector. Now one very important thing, that angle between two vectors is measured where the tail of the two vectors coincide. Okay, so angle between two vectors. So if I have a vector A and I have a vector B, there are two possibilities, right? You can say this is the angle or this is the angle. This will be 360 degree minus theta. In radian this is called 2 pi. So which angle is between A and B? It turns out we have to take the smallest angle. Okay, so angle between two vectors are measured where the tail of them coincide. If you see, then okay, this is both tail are coinciding, so angle is measured here. Okay, and angle is always the smaller angle. Like I told you that there is theta and this is 360 minus theta, but we'll take the smallest angle. So angle between two vectors, we'll say it to be theta only, where the tail of them coincide. Now how you add these two vectors? Now they don't look like they are representing adjacent side of a triangle, right? Now, so what you do, you draw a parallel vector. So I am doing it here. Suppose this is vector A, this is vector B. So you draw a parallel vector. So this will be B vector, right? And this will be A vector. Now if you see, these two represent adjacent side of a triangle taken in order. These two also represent adjacent side taken in order, BA. So this resultant R is, you can write either A plus B or B plus A. Okay, vector addition is commutative, means you add A plus B or you add B plus A, the result is going to be same. So this is called parallelogram law. Okay, same thing, same result I obtain using triangle law, and I can use parallelogram law also to do the same. Now you may ask, what if I have to do more than two vectors, right? Before that, let us just discuss one question. Suppose you have been given, okay, before discussing questions, let us talk about a bit property of vectors, right? Now property vector is represented by a symbol A, which is nothing but an arrow. Now this vector is pointing along X, you can say. If I draw arrow like this is pointing towards minus X. If it goes like this. What if a vector is pointing towards you? How you will draw it? So if vector is coming towards you, since vector is an arrow, if vector is coming out, so like this, you will see the tip, right? Now, so this arrow is coming towards you, you will see the tip. So this symbol dot means the tip of the arrow, means vector coming out. If this vector is going inside like this, then you will see the cross part, the back part. So this cross vector, so this vector means it is coming out, this vector is going inside. Now if you have a vector A, negative of a vector is defined as a vector having same length but opposite in direction. So this is called negative of a vector. Okay, so if you have a vector A, negative of a vector is a vector having same magnitude. Okay, magnitude means the length of the arrow is same but opposite in a direction. Now second thing, this is first idea. Let us say second idea. If you have two vectors A and B, they are said to be equal only and only if they have same magnitude and they have same direction. Of course, they should be both same physical quantity also, like if this is velocity, this should be also velocity. So two vectors are said to be equal if they have same magnitude and same direction. Then we can say A is equal to B, and of course they should represent the same physical quantity. Now third thing is that if I add vector A with this, right now, so we write it like this, A plus minus A vector. Now this, by your ordinary thought, you know that this gives you a null vector. Okay, this is called null vector. Null vector has zero length and it is just called a zero vector. So null vector you get when you add two vectors, you get a new vector called zero vector, you can say. Okay, or null vector, zero or null. Now one more property of a null vector is if you add vector A plus zero vector, you get the same vector. This is the second property of null vector. Okay, so what is null vector? If I add two vectors having equal magnitude but opposite direction, okay, magnitude means the length, then I get a null vector. If I add a null vector to a vector, then I get the same result. Now fourth point is if I have a vector A, what is the meaning of, let us say this is vector A. What is the meaning of 2A vector? It means A plus A, that means 2A vector is this. So 2A vector, so A vector is this. What is the meaning of 2A? You draw A and A, then you connect them. This is 2A vector. So 2A vector has same direction, but it is twice bigger than the first vector. Okay, now there is a general rule in vector that if I multiply a scalar, suppose scalar is 2 here, okay, this is, if scalar is n, so n A vector is equal to a new vector B. So if I multiply a scalar which is n, a number, with A, I get a new vector B. Now there are plenty of examples in physics in this regard. I will write it down. One is, suppose I have mass scalar, I multiply with acceleration, I get a new physical quantity called force. Okay, so if I multiply a scalar with a vector, I get a new vector. Now same way, if I multiply mass with velocity, I get a new quantity called momentum. Okay, so this is one example of this. Now let us talk about fifth point. Let us talk about unit vector. Now unit vector is denoted as A cap, and it is equal to vector by magnitude of the vector. Okay, we'll learn all this in detail in later on. Right now this is a definition of a unit vector. Unit vector is defined as vector A by A, and why it is called unit vector? The magnitude of unit vector, this means magnitude, is equal to 1. It is generally used to denote direction. Okay, so unit vector denotes direction. To, in our case, we will say that along X, Y and Z, Z is coming out. Okay, this is Z is like this. This is, we'll introduce I cap along X, J cap along Y, and K cap unit vector along Z. Okay, now coming back to commutative thing. Okay, 6 point I can put is vector addition A plus B is equal to B plus A. This is commutative. Now now you can ask me that what if I have more than 2 vectors, how we add them? Okay, so I will end with that idea only. So I told you vectors are added using triangle law or parallelogram law only if there are 2 vectors. If you have more than 2 vectors, let us just imagine a scenario. You have vector A, vector B, vector C. Okay, let us take one more vector, vector D. Now you want to add them. Now there is a rule which is now called polygon rule, which says that if vectors can be represented by adjacent side of a polygon taken in order, then resultant is drawn from the tail of the first vector to the head of the last vector. This will be the resultant, and this resultant is going to be A plus B plus C plus D. Now this is called polygon law of vector addition. Okay, now we can arrive at this result using triangle law also. Now just see, so this is A, this is B, so from triangle law this will be A plus B. Now forget about this AB, this is one vector, this is one vector, so if I add them, this will be A plus B plus C. Now if I add A plus B plus C to this, then you can see the resultant will be A plus B plus C plus D. Now you may ask this question, what if I have a vector like this? So if you can represent, you can see the resultant of a vector is drawn from the tail of the first vector to the head of the last. In this case you can't draw resultant, so resultant will be 0. This idea is used in studying when we talk about equilibrium, then this idea is used. So if you can form a triangle, right, now where you can't draw a resultant, then the resultant is 0. Now in the next lecture I will talk about how we find components or how we subtract the vectors.